The two thieves on the cross. One cried for mercy, one made fun of him. We saw a guy yesterday and had a shirt on. Sleeve said God free. His shirt had a symbol and a goat. He was a Satanist. Well, how sad. He thinks it's going to be wonderful to spend eternity in hell. But Jesus said, "Today thou shalt be with me in paradise," to the thief who he asked for help. And he looked at his mother, of course. He said, "Woman, behold thy son." And that shows his provision for those he loved, because John was there, and it was the oldest son. It was the son's job in the Jewish tradition. When the father died, the son became the boss. The son became in charge. So from the cross, he didn't want his mother to be left alone. He said, "Behold thy son." So then in Matthew chapter 27, verse 46, and about the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani." That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? 3 hours of pitch black. I've been in caves, maybe you have. There's a cave in Springfield. It's one of the only ones, or the only one, maybe the only one, that's flat enough that they give you Jeep tours through it. And they take you in there, and you're in there, and of course the lights are on, and all that stuff, and then they have a remote control, and they turn the lights off. And you all, if you've been in a place like that, you know. We've had our chalk artists here, so we had chalk artists, and they have to have total blackness. They covered the windows. We had to cover the bottom of the doorway so no light would come in. The doors, everything. When the lights are turned off, of course his projector was on and drawing on his thing. Total blackness. The phrase, "I can't see my hand in front of my face," when it's that dark, you can't see your hand in front of your face. They have proven that this darkness was supernatural. The darkness, go back here again. Jesus identifies with the sinner's darkness, verse number 45. As you see the slide, darkness descends over the entire earth, and I'm talking about the entire earth from noon to 3 p.m. Now, this is not, they tried to say that it was a full moon. Full moons don't last that long, and full moons do not cover darkness and cause darkness over the entire earth. The only pictures I ever had stolen, I used to do wedding photography on the side in college, and we had a lunar eclipse, and me and Becky and Connie sat out. We had a concrete patio. I had my tripod set up. I took a whole bunch of pictures. How many remember that good old thing called film? 35 millimeter. Jim still has his Pentax camera, and that's what I have. And I took some wonderful pictures. I thought they were great, of that eclipse. Somebody in the studio, we took them to the grocery store there, and I did a great job on most of the wedding pictures. I never got them back. They said they got lost. Somebody lost my pictures in their album, because that's the only ones I got back. I figured they stole them. But even then, it wasn't total darkness. So picture this: Jesus hanging there for 3 hours in total 100% blackness over the whole earth. That's supernatural. Not just a circumstance. It's not the moon. It's not the sun going out. Nobody turned the switch off on the sun. God caused it to be that way. There's all kinds of explanations, that it was an eclipse of the moon, eclipse of the sun, like I said, all kinds of things, and people had all kinds. They said it's a dust. I've heard they said it was a giant dust storm that covered up the sun's light. I've been in Phoenix, and they have dust storms out there, and they're terrible. But it wasn't any of that. God had everything in his hand. The darkness represents the darkness of us. The darkness also represented the darkness of our sin, because the Bible describes sin as what color? Black. They say that if you take all the colors of the rainbow, suppose if you mix them all together, it makes black. If you take everything combined, there's blackness. Picture this. What if you were standing there? What would you do? You couldn't see to not bump into the neighbor. You couldn't see to walk. You probably would have just had to sit down. What do? Feel your way. That total darkness representing our sin. The mind of man is darkness, Romans chapter 1, verse 21. The deeds of man, apart from God, are called works of darkness, Romans 13, 12 through 14. Even the things we do without God, it's worthless. Think about that. This darkness represents all of that. And for 3 hours, Jesus hung there. Here's the hard part. Have you ever had a friend turn their back on you? Seriously. They turn their back on you. It hurts. They get in a fight. They say, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. For the Father in heaven to turn his face away from the Son for the first time in all eternity. Jesus always was. God the Father always was. And so for the first time, he literally had to turn his back on his Son and not look at him. As a human being, imagine what that made Jesus feel like. As the Son of God, imagine what it made Jesus feel like. To be turned, his Father turned his face away from him. That Jesus identifies with the sinner's uncertainty. My God, and there's a question there. Now we ask why on many things. A child, I saw a video the other day, a little girl had markers. She had the whole bathroom marked. I don't know where her mom was. She went in there and yellow and green and blue, and at that time she was coloring the toilet seat. The cabinets, the toilet, the floor, the tub, everything was colored with markers. I don't know if they were permanent markers or not. But she said, the little girl said the toilet needed colored. But her mom said, why? Did your kids ever do something you did? Did you ever do something like that? Your mom said, why? Why? There are many things we question, why? We don't understand. Jesus had to say, why hast thou forsaken me? Now, not that he didn't know what would happen, but the pain was so great, the pain was so strong, that Jesus was always certain about everything. He had everything under control. And the lost man lives in a world of uncertainty. Why am I here? And what is life all about? I've had people ask that. Why am I here? Well, God puts us here, of course. He's in charge of life. Those who are for abortion, they think life. I heard one say the other day that when Planned Parenthood started, this lady who used to be way up in Planned Parenthood, she said they always told us that life didn't begin until the mother decided that she was pregnant. If she told herself she wasn't pregnant, it wasn't a life. This woman later got saved. This woman became a Christian, and now she speaks against that organization. But life. People say, why am I here? What's my purpose? You go to college, a lot of college kids, they go to first year of college, and Sydney's getting ready to do that shortly. And they want to declare a major. My roommate changed his major 3 times that year. He was only there a year and he left. One of my 3 roommates. But freshmen, you're young, you're 19 years old, first time away from college. I want to do this. Get into it, start looking at it. No, I don't want to do that. I want to do something else. Start change your major, change classes. No, I don't want to do something else. They say most of them don't really know what they want to do till 2nd or 3rd year. I knew God called me to preach, so I didn't have a reason to change anything. But a lot of people, well, what am I doing? Why am I here? What's my next step? But Jesus said, why? The spiritual agony of sin and of the drunkard and the thief and the liar and the gossip caused Jesus to have to die on a cross, even though we hadn't sinned yet. Sin was here, though. So you see, when he said, Father, forgive them, it was for all of us. But the things we have done to sin caused him to hang on a cross. We talked about it. Arms spread. Nails in his hands and feet. Beaten beyond recognition. Sin. The uncertainty of, that leads to agony of the soul. Isaiah says the wicked are like the troubled sea. Isaiah 57:20 to 22. Maybe none of you have been out on a sea that's been in turmoil, but we've all seen the movies. My boss was he was in the Army. They're bringing him back over bring a bunch of the Army back over on a ship, of course, belongs to the Navy. And he said they got in a storm, and he said the front of that ship was going up 25, 30 feet, and then drop 25 and 30 feet. And go up 25 and 30 feet, and drop 25 and 30 feet. I won't tell you the whole explanation. He told me what was going on in there. Just that a lot of people are sick. Imagine how that would be if you were in that ship. Man, would you be afraid? Of course. But it says sin is like that sea. Boy, those seas can be terrible. The first time I swam in the ocean was in New Jersey. We went up there. My Butch's dad lived in Hackensack, New Jersey, which is weird because I get a bunch of calls from Hackensack, New Jersey, and we ordered some pins from them one time, and I finally told them to take us off their list because we get it from another place now. But we went to the boardwalk, and we went to the ocean, and these big waves are coming in, and I thought, wow, I was 12. I was this tall almost, and I thought, I'm going to dive right into that wave and see what happens. I saw what happened. My body, I was scared. I started flipping around. The wave was throwing you underneath, the undertow pulling you. I finally got to the surface, and I said, dummy, you're not doing that again. And I didn't. I learned. But I didn't know that it was going to toss me about that much. I thought, oh, it's going to be fun to dive into that big old wave. So now I know what surfers hit when they get hit by a big wave and tossed around. And they got their surfboard tied to them so they hit them in the head. So next, Jesus identifies with the sinner's separation from God. That's the hard part. Why hast thou forsaken me? We say, why does somebody leave me? Why does a friend, we get in a fight and they say goodbye. We don't know, but imagine that not only was it his father, then he had the burden of all of our sin on his shoulders, and then he realizes his father's leaving him. When we have problems, we need friends. Look what Job did. His friends came to console him because his wife said, just curse God and die. But he was God's servant. But his friends, they came from a long way, and they just sat there with him. They might not have said anything, and they were just there. My mother-in-law, a lot of times on a 6-hour trip from Wisconsin to here, or to Springfield, she might say 3 words. She never talked a lot. To us and stuff, but in the car, in the truck, she never said much. But she was there. Like his dad the two of them had somebody that they weren't by themselves. He was there, just a companion. Jesus had his father turn his back on him. He was forsaken that we might, look at that next slide, that word never. That's a strong word. The wife tells the husband, you never pick up your socks. You never put the toilet seat down. Now, he might have put it down once or twice, so you can't say never. But never is a strong word, but Jesus died on the cross, and he was forsaken so that we don't ever have to be forsaken. Boy, when we get to heaven, eternity is going to be sweet. I don't know that we can even imagine what heaven's going to be like, because we see this world, from what I read yesterday, between Mississippi and Alabama, 26 people died in these tornadoes. I saw some videos. Man, cars piled up. There was that one whole area, blocks and blocks and blocks. There was not one piece of one house standing. It was rubble. You're sitting there eating dinner, or you're there in your house or whatever, and the sirens go off, and it looked like Hiroshima. I don't know if I've seen that much devastation in tornadoes. They were warning, yes, I understand that. But man, Jesus had all that upon him. So then the thirsting Savior, his next phrase, John chapter 19, verse 28. Jesus simply said, I thirst. He did that because he died as a man. He died as God, but physically, he died as a man. How long can you go without water? I just took a drink a while ago. May have to get another one. How long can you go without liquid in your water in your body? You've all been there. You work out in the sun. It's the summertime. You're out in the heat. Your mouth dries up. Maybe you take water and dump it over your head. Jim said when they do hay, they put it on the wagon. He'd swim across the pond, get out of the pond, go, and they put it up in the loft. I've put hay up. It's not easy work. How many ever helped put up hay? How many have no idea what it's like? Raise your hand. Sissies. Am I right, Jim? It's not easy work. Jim said they get down the truck, swim across the pond, cool off a little bit, get some of this hay off your body, and then you're all wet, so then when you're throwing it up in the loft, it all sticks to you more, and go swim across the pond, going back probably. I've been there, done that. We didn't have a pond, though. It's hard work. You know what I'm talking about? You get so thirsty, you can't wait for a drink. You got to have Coke, or you got to have something, or Kool-Aid, or water, or lemonade. I've got this big red jug that Lynn and Joyce bought me a couple years ago. And I go work and I take that big thing. Because I got to have my moisture. So Jesus had been beaten. He was arrested. All those hours in jail. And then beaten and hung on the cross. Hanged there for 3 hours. His body was in so much torment. And then he said, I thirst. John's primary purpose was to show Jesus his deity. But here he shows us humanity. He felt what we feel, and he had to do that because he had to experience our needs. Okay, he did the same thing we do. He grew as a boy. You imagine being like the one slide up there? Could you imagine being the perfect child and your brothers and sisters say, you never do anything wrong. You never get in trouble. Did you see the one slide said, you wondered if the good kids didn't know their middle name? If I heard Richard Lee, because we had one phone, and in the kitchen, 75-foot cord, you all know what it's like, hanging on the wall, and I'd go all the time, I'd flip it over and hang it upside down. The phone rang, my mom would grab it. Next thing I'd hear, Richard Lee! I knew my middle name. When you get in trouble, you hear that middle name. But you imagine his brothers and sisters saying, you never get in trouble. You're the perfect child. But he grew up. He wearied, John chapter 4, verse 6. He hungered, Matthew chapter 4, verse 2. He slept, Mark chapter 4, verse 38. He wept, and you know that verse, John chapter 1. John chapter 11, 35. The kids in Vacation Bible School tell them, quote a verse, they always said, Jesus wept. That was easy. We got that so many times. Jesus wept. That was easy. That's an easy one. But the Bible says he groaned. John chapter 11, verse 33. And the human race had sinned. And the human race has to die. He had to, he refused to do the option. He could have called 10,000 angels. to destroy the world and set him free. We sing the song. That was an option. He could have. Could he have done that? As the Son of God, he could have. Matter of fact, as the Son of God, he was in this place, and he had appear somewhere else in the room without going through the door, without going through anything. If he could do that, he didn't have to have 10,000 angels. He didn't have to have 1,000 angels. He didn't have to have 2 angels. He could have taken himself off of that cross. But you ever heard the phrase, it's not an option? Now, humanly, maybe he felt like that, but as God, he could not do that. Suffering and pain. He said, I thirst. Why? Because he experienced the thirst of hell for man. You and I will never have to. I've ever seen The Burning Hell, the movie The Burning Hell. Maybe we'll find that sometime and show it. Anybody here has never seen it? When I went on a trip to Mexico, we'd go into towns, and that's when the missionary down there had a van. We put a sheet on the side of the van, and we go invite people to the plaza. 7 o'clock. The plaza is not the Plaza Hotel, it's a park. Right, Ulysses? It's a park. And a lot of people would come, and we would show The Burning Hell, and every night, 10, 15, 20 people